those of you that are joining us that are our regulars for CV and Caffeine, you may see that I am not Liz Landry. Our illustrious Liz is off on a well-deserved cruise, so you get the pleasure of having me today with my co-hosts, Katie and Peter. Today's topic is going to be the life story. And for those of you that may not be completely familiar with the CV process, when you ask someone to take the KPA, part of that is you get a huge printout, and they outline the steps that you should go through to validate this KPA. The first one is a job fit, then the thought process, references, then comes the life story, and then the motivational interview. Today, we're just focusing on the life story. So I'm going to defer to both Peter and Katie to give us a little bit of their background, where they are, what they do, and how the life story has impacted them in their business in a positive manner, perhaps sometimes in a negative manner. And I think we're also going to shed some light on how this process worked during COVID. So I'm going to let the two of you take it away.
Great. Katie, you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Goldstein. I am a director of operations for Lifetime Realty Group. We are out of the Metro Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. And we've been doing CV as long as I've been a part of KW, so just over 5 years. And as a director of operations, I've actually been a part of this with our Rainmaker Scott every single time that we've hired anyone. So we've been kind of tag teaming it, which is a great way for me to learn this process and see how it's done. And now I actually oversee all the hiring for our operations team. And we have a director of sales that oversees it for our agents. So we're both very well versed in this process. And I would say the life story is, I would argue, one of the best times with a candidate. And here's why. We all know an interview, people can practice for an interview. They can practice interview questions. They can practice, what would you do in a challenging situation, or, whatever. People can practice that. Nobody practices this part. And I think you get a very raw version of the person that you're interviewing, in terms of raw, meaning like how they speak normally. It is more of a casual conversation. And I think this helps to uncover, for us, the most important thing is understanding, do they have a victim mentality or a non-victim mentality? That's really what we're looking for in this whole process, is uncovering what disappointments they had. And we follow it to a T. I ask these questions. I have them printed off here. What happened? What were your highs? What disappointments did you have? I mean, I'm an operations person. I'm a rule follower. So it gives you everything to say. And it really does help to uncover where the language that they're using will help you to uncover if they have a victim mentality or a non-victim mentality. So.
Yeah, I agree. Peter Chabris, I'm in Cincinnati. The Chabris Group is now a 7th level team. Last year we closed 491 transactions, about 143 million.
Wow.
Majority shareholder in Market Center, KW Master Faculty, and Certified Leverage Series teacher. And side hustle and do a little coaching. So I love the life story as well. I think Katie, you're right. Like, one of the most important things you're trying to suss out on this is the last stop you have to identify any victim mindset. If you don't hear it here, there's no other steps in the process to flesh it out. So you absolutely want to be listening for victim mindset. The flip side of that coin is you're also learning how your candidate handles adversity. And I'm equally interested in that. Usually I'm able to get victim mindset flushed out during the screening interview on the phone when you're doing resume review, but it will present itself here, though. Then I can stop the show at the life story. There's two other things I really value about the process with life story. One is that when they identify in the pre-work section of career visioning, they say that talent is somebody whose personality, skills, and behavior, is that right? Excuse me. Personality, skills, and experience match the role, and the role is the next logical step in their career. And this is in the life story where you absolutely can confirm, is this the next logical step in this person's career? And the other piece I love about it is I'm pretty dry. And so this is the opportunity for me to really get to know the person. I love the structure. It's a structured way for me to get into relationship with somebody and connect with them. If I haven't had that opportunity to really connect with them yet, it's incredibly powerful, and really cements that relationship for what's coming if you do wind up working together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really
Katie,
good
since
point.
you're a rule follower, on the paperwork, it actually says to use a flip chart. Do you use
Yep.
the flip chart?
We do use a flip chart. Yep.
Okay.
We have a like those big sticky notes.
Yep.
We put that up on a board in a room. And when if we are doing it virtually, which has been few and far between now, we still will share our screen and do it either like in a Word doc or something like that. So it's still in front of them. They can still see it. And the purpose behind that too is that way they can also see the flow and what the questions are, because we ask the same questions for every single either career or life event that they have, so they can also sort of like understand the cadence of what we're looking to do, starting with their last level of education. So yeah.
Peter, how'd you guys do it during COVID?
We didn't hire anyone during COVID
Okay.
because I wasn't sure if it was going to be Armageddon or the zombie apocalypse or if the entire housing market was collapsing. So we didn't hire anyone, and we
Okay.
just cranked on a skeleton crew and had our most profitable years ever.
That's awesome.
But
Has
I
there
do
ever,
love, sorry, go ahead, Angela. I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off.
go ahead, Peter.
I was going to say, I do love I love standing while they sit and facilitating that experience. We use the same thing, the big sticky notes on the wall. They talk about the KPA verification being a time of self-awareness for the candidate. The life story is another one where they really, for the first time ever, are able to like zoom out on their life and really think, what is my narrative? What am I about? What is this career path really leading to? And that in conjunction with really listening, typically, I don't know if I should this, I'll say it, who cares? So when I used to sell houses during the Great Recession, which was a horrible time to list, and that's what I did, was I only listed homes. I knew it was a good listing presentation when my sellers were crying, because I knew that like they had accepted reality and now we could actually move them forward in their lives. And so we used to not, I wouldn't joke, but I knew it was going to be good and it was going to work out if they were at that point where they were coming to terms with their reality. I think too, like a great life story interview typically involves some tears. And that's where you're going to find out what somebody is really like in the core. And I find in those raw emotional moments, I actually see the person more in the life story than the motivational interview. And so I just, when you're standing up there and you're facilitating and you're not sitting right next to them, it's almost like it's safer for them to be a little bit more honest with their emotions around their experiences. And I think that body language and being a little bit separated and standing up and facilitating gives them a safer space to do that.
I remember like it was yesterday, the 2 times I had to do the life story in person with someone, and there was a box of tissues on the table, and I thought that was so odd. And when I came on board with Liz, it was all done virtually. And you're right, the impact in person is much more significant.
Totally. I remember the first times that the McKissicks, who own the Ohio Valley region, I was down in Texas, and I can't remember why, but I went there and they wanted to kind of take me through CV, and this is before I was an OP, and they did the life story with me, and they had tissues on the table, and I cried like a baby, and it was the first time anyone had ever done it to me before. And so having tissues, if you're doing it in person, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have there ever been a situation where there may have been a red flag or two during the life story that you didn't pay attention to, and then once you onboard this person, you thought back when they may have some things come up and you're like, oh yeah, that red flag was in their life story. I should have paid more attention. Have you guys had a situation like that? No?
Not yet. No, I have not.
If you've gotten through references, and I love that references now come after what is it? Thought process interview.
Thought process interview.
I always call it the 30 questions. So thought process interview. I love that the references come next, and that makes sense because you don't want to waste any more time. You're going to, all the red flags should surface during the references check, right? And so I have had an experience where back in the day, it used to be what was the event? What were the highs? What were the lows? What did you learn? What did you earn? Well, now we can't ask that, but it used to be, what did you earn? Used to be the last one. And I've always done this thing and everyone's always asked and answered. It's always great. And this one candidate who I had fallen in love with wouldn't answer the question, what did you earn, on all these questions. And I thought, okay. And I was going to make an offer to him anyway, and something didn't quite feel right. And so I sent it along to the guy that mentored me on the career visioning process at the time. I sent him the big package, like he was my defense. And he immediately noticed that this guy hadn't answered any of the questions in this column. And he said, why isn't this filled out? And I said, well, he wasn't comfortable answering the questions. And he said, well, here's the deal. Have you ever had anyone else not answer those questions? And I said, no. And he said, well, neither have I. And so what does that tell you about this candidate? And I thought, well, I guess he's not totally transparent. And he just said, well, do you want to get into a working relationship with someone that's going to be one of your core leaders that's not willing to be transparent with you on the front end of the hiring process? And I thought, oh, that's a really good observation. So I didn't hire him. But that's the only time I've ever had any kind of red flag come up in the life story.
That's great. When
I think when I think about, like, maybe not necessarily a red flag, but thinking about the highs, the lows, what did you learn? I'm also looking at it like making sure that the reason that they had a disappointment or a low doesn't happen here, or how can we prevent it?
I love that.
They might say something like, I became the smartest person in the room and I needed to get into a bigger room, for example. So I'm thinking, great, we're going to hire this person. We decided to hire them when we finished the entire process. Now, how do I continue to make sure that this person is staying in a bigger room and keeping a good pulse on that, especially if you've noticed that that's the reason they've left the last couple of places, or so just something that I'm keeping in mind as I'm like mentoring them and working with them. And same with the highs. If something was, what was the best part about it? Maybe the best part about it for them was, it sounds silly, but like potlucks on Friday. Okay. So to me, I hear community. They really like community and maybe cooking or something like that. So how could we maybe do something like that here to help create that same experience that they liked at their previous employers too? So
that's a really good point, Katie. I think a lot of the values, a candidate's values, come out during the life story. Why do they make decisions about what they did? What did they find the highs and the lows were? It's not just their grit, it's also their values. And I think that's a good cultural sniff test prior to the group interview. That's a really good observation.
Yeah.
What is your biggest recommendation for someone that is new to having to take someone through the whole CV process and the KPA process? What would be your words of wisdom of, it's difficult your first time and you have to keep doing it, but what would be, your kind of mic drop ideas?
I would definitely say to do career visioning, the training for it that they offer, and to continue to keep doing it. It's just like anything else. It's, we want our agents to role play so that they can continue to practice and practice and practice. It's the same thing with this. So continuing to practice it through learning from people that are experts in it, plugging into things here with KW Talent on dissecting it. The other thing I would also recommend is you can just follow this. Like, you don't need to be creative. I feel like a lot of times people want to say like, well, I'll skip this part, or I'll do it my own way. Like, or you can just follow what it says and it's less thinking for you, which is good. You can take that thinking time and put it into things that are probably more effective and a better use of your time. And that way people are having a very consistent experience too. So, but I would say to just continue to follow this plan.
As more of a transactional personality, or a little bit drier, I would say that when you're following the process and you're following those questions, you also want to make sure that there is an appropriate level of humanity in this journey that you take with your candidate, right? If you are showing appropriate levels of empathy or sympathy and emotional curiosity without doing a deep dive, you're going to be rewarded with a more honest conversation and a more real relationship with your candidate. And conversely, if you're super relational, behaviorally, it can be really, you can overdo it and be over emotionally invested and really kind of jack up the process. And so if that's the case, you kind of need to like check yourself a little bit and remain like neutral positive in terms of how you're relating to that individual's experience.
Do
I
you
totally
suggest
agree with you.
role playing for people that are newer to this, or just KPAs?
100%. Katie just already said it. I didn't want to waste anyone's time. Absolutely, you should role play it. I mean, if you're going to this role playing is one of the things I get on the soapbox on. We're very consistent in our role playing at our company. You can't, in the world of sales, your financial performance will always be limited by your ability to communicate, right? You're never going to be able to outsell your communication skills over the long term. Well, when you're dealing with sales, it's a one-to-one relationship. When you're hiring somebody, that person should be a multiplier in your life. And so for heaven's sake, like the stakes are so much higher, the opportunity is so much bigger, and the damage caused can be so much greater. Like, role play this thing. Like, care enough about the risk that you're taking with your business to practice this skill, because if you get it right, it's phenomenal. If you jack it up, you're going to screw up your business. How's that?
That's great. Yeah. That's great. I did just notice that on the Keller Williams calendar, the KWI calendar, Mark Willis is teaching career visioning 3 times for the remaining of the year.
That's awesome.
Any of our folks listening, Mark is one of the original OGs. So if you are newer to Keller Williams, Mark Willis has been with the company a long time. So if you get an opportunity, check out that on the KWRI's website. And for our KW Talent members, I'm going to be linking some other CV classes. I'm starting to pull that information together. So Peter, if you're ever teaching something, let us know and we'll.
I'm teaching in Colorado in July, and I'm teaching in Michigan, Northern Ohio in September.
Okay. I think you've sent me those dates, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to defer to our audience. Is there anyone that wants to drop a question into the chat and kind of put Peter and Katie on the hot seat? Anybody working through something? Have questions? Any part of the CV process? Have you not had enough caffeine yet? And maybe you can come off mute, but I don't think you. Oh, I can't allow you to talk. Oh. I'm going to let you all be able to talk, so you can just come off mute if you have a question. And if you don't, that's fine too. We can just wrap up a few minutes early.
I will say something else really quick if nobody has a question. When I was thinking about this and prepping for this, we've had quite a few people recently who have been very early in their career do career visioning with us. So their life story, it looks a lot different than somebody who has had maybe 10 years of experience in the working world. And what I found in those conversations is we tend to go back even a little bit further. If they do start with, let's say, when did you finish your education? And let's say they graduated from XYZ University and they haven't had a job yet or something. We'll go back a little bit farther then to just get some experience on, like, maybe they're involved in clubs, sports. What did they learn in that? Like, so I feel like there is a little bit of a pivot depending on the experience level that those people have, which is something to be aware of. And something I've noticed more recently we've added a lot of like brand new agents that are, some of them are right out of high school. So
hiring them young, training them right.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, if no one has any questions, we can bounce off a few minutes early. Thank you, Peter and Katie. And
thanks, Angela. Thanks,
everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
This recording will be up on the KW Talent member portal, and we will post it on the public website for KW Talent also. Join us again soon. Thank you again,
Thanks,
Paul.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.